We haven't heard anything from anyone on any questions about their final project. So the hope was on the 19th, when you submitted your electronic version, all the hard work for your innovation lecture was done, and be focusing on your final project. The project video is due next, today Wednesday? 2 weeks from today. And then you have to do a class on December 14th to go over critiquing the videos. I spoke with Rick Harriman this morning. Nobody has contacted any of his people about the English as a second language. So I would expect if you don't email me, email Paul, email the TFs, email Rick, or email somebody between now and next week, you probably won't get any help or support or information for your project. So I really encourage you to do that if you have questions. You can't imagine you have enough information just from what we've given you, or let me phrase it differently, you can't imagine you couldn't get more valuable information by asking good questions. Okay? So is there anything I can do to help you get more engaged with your project, other than cancel all your other exams and other classes?
Yes.
All right, I'm available by Skype. You know, we'll have class on Monday. After class on Monday is a little hard. I can do before if you needed it, but take advantage of it. Okay. All right. So we're going to get started. Let me get out my little people clock. And go ahead, my friend.
All right. So today I'm going to be talking about revolutionizing product development. It's a book written by Stephen Wheelwright and Kim Clark, and it's very useful in talking about how to maintain a competitive edge and develop products. So when developing products and talking about being competitive, we need and we have a very important need for speed and flexibility. So product and process development are immensely important in international competition, fragmented markets, and diverse and rapidly changing technologies. Now, examples of international competition might be something like McDonald's, Pepsi, brands that are competing, that have brands here, but are also competing across the world. Fragmented demanding markets could be things like radios, Walkman, things like that. iPods, MP3 players, things like that. And rapidly changing technologies are the innovative side of the marketplace, where everything you're doing is coming very quickly out of development and into the hands of the consumer. So the 3 development imperatives that you must keep in mind when trying to develop a new product is to be fast and responsive, have high development productivity, and have products with distinction and integrity. So you want to focus on those 3 things and keep those 3 things in mind as I go through the rest of the product development cycle. Now, in order to have effective development, there's 6 themes that you also want to be trying to follow at any given time. One is having early conflict resolution at a low level. So that starts down at the individual project level. So when you have lots of engineers working on different projects, you want to have low conflict resolution early on, so that you make sure that all the projects are working in synchrony with each other. Finally, you want to provide continuity in offerings, so make sure that all your products are actually working together as a broad product base. You want to have a system view of project concepts so that you can see everything from the top down, and you're actually trying to make all of your individual products and projects come together into one final product that you will deliver to the customer. And you want to design it right the first time. So nothing kills a product more than redesigning time and time again after every single change of design or any sort of change of functionality that you might have as a result of these low-level conflicts that you don't resolve early. And you want to also have broad expertise in functions, responsibility, and integrated problem solving. So you want to have this across all levels of the product, from management all the way down to the engineers. And you want to have strong leadership and widespread accountability that can bring it all together. So in order to use this strategy, you want to use effective development efforts in order to gain market position, increase your resource utilization, and have organizational renewal, so that while you're developing products, you're also renewing your organization and learning from everything that you do. The problems that most companies face when doing product development is they have a moving target. Every time they start to develop something, they come up with a new problem. the mismatches between functions, different parts of the organization are developing different parts, and they don't quite get it all to fit together. Lack of product distinctiveness, you might run into designing the same thing that another company is designing and just trying to be in a race with them. That may or may not work, usually does not. And problem-solving delays are problems when you kind of kick the can down the road. If you don't solve it initially, you're going to end up with a major problem later on. And unresolved policy issues are key from the management's perspective. Now, the framework to use is to establish development projects so that every part of the organization is working on one small little bit that they can all then piece together. You want to integrate and coordinate contributors to make sure that you have a framework for putting all of those little projects together. You want to manage the development efforts to converge, such from a leadership perspective, you can actually get them all to fit together into one broader idea, and create and improve the development capabilities so that every time a product and a project gets designed, you're actually learning and developing as a company so that next time you can do it faster and better. So there's 6 key parts. We're going to look at them in order. The first is the technology strategy. So you want to guide in acquiring, developing, and applying technology. So here you have to have 3 key things. One is focus, one is source, and one is timing and frequency of implementation. So you want to match up all the technologies that you're trying to bring into your product and that you're trying to utilize and develop, and focus on very specific aspects of that instead of trying to kind of do the shotgun approach and see exactly what sticks. You want to have a good source so that you can actually have reliable productivity and reliable sources of all your materials and your designs. And you want to have a timing and frequency of implementation so that you can mesh them all together. Next, we're going to look at the product marketing strategy. Now, the questions you're trying to answer here are, what are the products, who is the target customer, how are we going to distribute it, and what's the competitive advantage? And in order to use these effectively, you want to focus on the technology evolution, the competition, return on investment, customer support, and available resources. And if you stick to those 5 things, you can actually capitalize on your product. Even if it may not be the most advanced product, you can capitalize on pushing that market strategy and pushing that product by focusing on these things, because nothing pisses people off more than having poor customer support or poor available resources. Next, you want to look at the development goals and objectives. So the purpose here is to provide integration both in the aggregate and at the levels of the individual project. I talked a little bit before about having smaller pieces that all add up into one final product. So you want to manage time, quality, productivity, market impact, and profitability on that very small scale and on the large scale. So you want to make sure that all the individual projects that are going into the larger product all are managed well in terms of time and quality, have an impact, and will lead to profitability and productivity. Next, you want to look at the aggregate project plan. And the purpose of this is a second stage of integration down to the level of specific projects and resources. So this, once again, goes to the management aspect of making sure that each of these projects lead into the final product, and that you don't have individual groups kind of leading off into different directions that will then need to be redirected. So you want to apply resources to a mix of project types, so that might include early stage development, some kind of far out technologies that you might want to build in, as well as working on your core product and developing additional features for that. And you want to develop a capacity plan to make sure that you actually have enough capacity, both in time, resources, and engineering capability to be able to handle all of these. And you want to examine the effect of the project on future development, so make sure that something that you're working on now isn't going to negatively impact the firm as a whole for future development. Next, you want to look at project management and execution. Now, the purpose of project management is to connect the project's detail to a clear, measurable goal and overall strategy. And this is very important from all levels of managers, but especially at the top level management, to set clear goals and have a clear mission and purpose. And that goes from the smallest project that individual engineers may be working on to the overall marketing strategy that the whole marketing department is working on. And you want to choose development approach to link execution strategy and performance in such a way that you can get all parts of the company working together in a single goal. So one of the major problems that Northern Electronics experienced when they were trying to develop a new type of radio in the early 90s was that they had the engineering department working on one aspect of the radio, and the design department was trying to design a case to hold all the components. But they kept changing the specs for the actual technology, so the design kept having to be redone. And by the time they had started in 1989, they wanted to produce it in September of 1990 for Christmas of 1990. And they actually ended up not being able to get it into production until after Christmas in 1991, because they just kept having to go in this big circle, because all the individual projects did not all mesh up into one thing. So the problem there was not a lack of talent. They had very talented engineers, they had very talented designers. The problem was that the management was not setting clear goals from the bottom up. And so as a result, they ended up going in all the wrong directions. And then finally, you want to look at post-project learning and improvement. So the purpose here is to identify, share, and apply lessons learned throughout the organization. So every time you work on a project, you inherently learn something from that project, whether it's how to develop something quicker, faster, a new way of thinking, ways to source materials, all these things that you can then not only just look at and say, look, great, we learned them from this project, but how do you integrate that back into the organization as a whole and make the organization a much more functional unit, so that next time you design a new product, you're using all the things that you learned on an individual project level and incorporating everything and all the problems that you solved previously into your new project, so that you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every single time. So the important part here is, translate that into incremental improvement, and that's on a personal and an organizational level, and have project audits and investments, so that once you look at the product and you look at the project as a whole and say, here's where we spent a lot of money, here's where we spent a lot of time, here's where we spent a lot of engineering resources, you can then figure out how to divert some of that to new types of innovation the next time around, and so you don't have to spend that money in the same place every time, and talent and things like that. And then with investment, it's how do you invest in the organization as a whole to be able to move it forward instead of just cycling products out. You want to keep iterating as a company, not just as a product development. So in conclusion, product improvement derives from an effective development strategy, which derives from 6 key factors that we looked at: technology strategy, the product marketing strategy, the development goals, the aggregate project plan, the project management, and post-project learning. And if you're able to incorporate all 6 of those into each product and look at it from both an individual project level on up to the entire product cycle, you can actually make a much more efficient design cycle and be much more competitive.